going to put us up on Facebook. I'll tell you, I'll give you how many suggestions we were given, and then you just pick a number, and then based on that number, I'll tell you what that corresponds to. And then we just go, man.
And you will tell me the suggestion. You're not keeping it for yourself.
Yes.
Maybe because you could keep it for yourself and let me guess it at the end of the scene. This is hard.
I'll tell you this. It's up to you. You tell me which way you want to do it. Do you want to do it where you tell me the number and I don't tell you what the suggestions, we just improvise? Or do you want to know? Either way, I'm down for it.
Okay, so let's adopt my decision and maybe cry after about it. Yes.
So I'm
in for that.
I'm not going to tell you the suggestion. You give me the number, and then after our scene, I'll tell you what the suggestion is.
Yes, and maybe people will text me. It's airplane. Go to the sky. What are you doing on the floor?
This is great. This is great. Okay, so pick a number between 1 and 25.
12.
All right.
It's a biblical nice number.
All right, great. So I'm not going to tell you what it is, but let's see afterwards if you know what it is.
Let me guess.
Okay.
I'm not the first one to come today.
No, you're right. You're not the first one.
I had to know it before because I from the notice, I really got the impression that you picked me for the mission. And now I see that you're just screening people.
I picked you to be a part of the mission, absolutely. And I haven't made my final decision, but you are in the running for the people that I've been picking. I've been picking people to be a part of it. So I picked you to be a part. I mean, so first off, I picked you. That's the first selection. I did pick you. I did pick you. I'm not going to lie.
I need to know,
yeah.
Am I in it? Am I not? I mean, it's a torture for me to hang between worlds. What do you need? What do you need?
Can I tell you something?
Yeah.
You think like I think. You and I, it's like we're one person. I can't say you got it, but let's just say it's a formality with everyone else.
Okay.
That makes sense? Like
I got it. It's great.
It's like you and I are simpatico. You and I, it's like we fit together. You bring your skills to the table. And I'll be honest, it's some skills I didn't even think we needed for this mission. But now that I know you, these skills are crucial for the mission.
So I don't have to work hard. You need what I already got.
Right. What you already have fits in perfectly for what my need is. If you are the one that I choose. If you're the one I'm going to choose. So
I don't have to work on muscles. I don't have to show leadership. I can be just the way I am.
You just be the way you are, because here's the thing, the way you are fits in perfectly to the way we are. And you and I, like I knew as soon as you walked in that door, I was like, that's it. Like I knew this was going to work. Now, again, I cannot confirm, and I have a long list of applicants.
Oh, okay, I get it. And I follow what you do for a long time.
Yeah. What's,
And
yeah,
the thing with the moon,
yeah.
I wouldn't think about it.
No?
You did.
Huh.
No, I mean, I believe that if it's so far, maybe it's far for a reason. That's my thought.
How are you able to see that? How? Nobody's been able to see that. See, this is what I'm talking about. It's like perfect.
I'll tell you why. Because people try to magnify
Yes.
the moon. So they build telescopes and they try to get higher as possible. But the truth is that it's very small. Yes. I mean, it's a shy star. It doesn't want to be scrutinized or explored.
Wants to
no
be.
Need.
It just wants to be.
And roses. I mean, roses.
Yeah.
They're not meant for poems.
Hey,
and I tell you why.
Tell me.
They don't know to read.
Huh. Every time you open your mouth, it just is confirming that you are a top candidate. And
yeah,
I think you know what I'm saying.
So we are on the same path.
I mean, we are on the same, you know what it is? The two of us, we are singing the same song. We are playing similar instruments, and we are singing the same song together, and it fuses together beautifully.
Exactly. I'll give you another thing. Walls. I mean, what would the world be like if flats had no walls?
What? Are you kidding me? I was just talking about this theory yesterday. I don't believe. Really?
Really?
Yeah, I'm not kidding. I was talking to Dominique, who, if you were to get this position, you will meet and you'll be working in close proximity with her. But I'm just saying, Dominique, which may or may not be her real name, and it may or may not be a female, but I'm just saying, I was talking to her about this just yesterday. I cannot believe you're saying this. I'm about to leave and not come back because of what you just said. I cannot believe it. It is so true. And I thought, and she said to me, nobody else is going to share that opinion. And I said, no, there's got to be people out there who feel that same way.
But you know the reason for that?
No, tell me.
Because when flats have walls, what the first thing that you do?
Yeah.
You open a window. So you don't really need the walls. They're just something that you have around the windows.
Right? Walls, I mean, just the fact that there are walls. Think of the damage throughout history walls have done.
Yeah, fights between neighbors. No walls, no neighbors. We are in the same. We are all roommates.
Put a wall up. Put a wall. That's the solution. We need to not put walls up. We need to put windows in. Walls down, windows in.
And people think that I'm crazy.
You know why? Because they don't get it. They don't get it. And anytime you find an innovator, that's what they think. They think that person is crazy when they're not. They're the only sane one. You're the only sane one.
Yeah, I mean, but there are many people that think that I'm crazy. And sometimes I start to think and to have doubts.
You look at me. You look me in the eye. Don't let them get to you. Don't let them get to you. It's feeding into your imposter syndrome as well. You think they know, they don't know. So what they do is they call you crazy. They throw out a label, and it's just not true.
You are the first one to tell me this. And I want to believe you. I want to believe that everything is okay and that I found a home, and I know that the minute I go out of this place, I'm crazy again.
What if you don't go out? What if you don't go out of this place? What if you stay here? What if you, again, I cannot confirm or deny that you are or are not a perfect or not perfect fit for this position, but what if you were? And what if your whole life was to bring you to this place right now, to find that this accepts you for who you are? What about that?
you know, it's giving up my family, even my country. I'm in my country.
Do you feel,
belong to it.
do you feel like a valued member of your family and a valued member of your country? That's the question you have to ask yourself. Do you feel that?
This is a big change for me.
But you wouldn't be here if you didn't want it.
You know why I told you about the roses? You know?
Why?
And the thing in the moon, because deep down, I hoped that you would think that it's crazy and tell me to go back home. And I'm used to it.
But isn't deeper down than that? You hoped I
And
wouldn't call you crazy?
So what do we do? We just stay here and never go out?
Well, isn't that an exciting question to find the answer to? That's what we're about, is what do we do? That's the question we're always asking here. What do we do?
Maybe I'm jumping ahead, maybe, but maybe you could give me a clue. What is the mission about? If it's secret, I'm not going out. So what's the problem?
It's on
If it's dangerous, I want to know it just now. I will say yes, but I want to know it. I want to prepare myself.
It's only as dangerous as you make it.
Can you be more specific? I need something to hold to.
It's only as dangerous as you, Ben, want to make it. I mean, what is danger? What is dangerous to you is leaving your house every day is dangerous, right?
Right?
Leaving your house every day is dangerous. There's so many things that could happen. So some people think that's dangerous.
This is so true.
Right?
I mean, people should listen to you. I don't know about myself, but people should listen to you.
Well, if you are added to our team, you will be.
I think if the mission is flexible, that we can just make a two-man parade in the street to show our wisdom to the world. That's a bit dangerous, yeah, because they may laugh, so it's a bit dangerous.
Well, the question is, how much danger are you willing to experience?
Whatever you take on yourself, I will take on myself too.
That's the answer I was hoping for. Congratulations.
Yeah, I'm so thrilled.
Scene!
Really, 10 minutes?
Yes, but I'll ask you, do you want to know what the suggestion was? What do you think it was? I love it, first off. I love that you're willing to take that chance and go without knowing it. I think that was great.
Finals test, I would just say.
Our suggestion was harmony.
Wow, the first thing that I thought was approval.
And I think it's really, I think this is an interesting idea, is to like improvise a scene with someone and then trying to give them clues within context of the scene so they know what the suggestion is by the end. I think that's a brilliant, I love it. I think it's such a fun idea.
Yeah, and actually I knew that there is no chance I will get it, so I didn't think about it. And harmony in terms of improvisation, Now I start to play with complete yesing,
Yeah,
which is really,
that's it.
yeah, it's actually a revolutionary idea, because you always try to work hard, and no, how boring a scene can be without being boring at all.
Mm. And I think, our job is to keep that to keep that balloon up by agreement and adding the smallest, even the smallest amount can keep it going. And I think this online improv has forced people to slow down too, and has forced them to let me really hear what you say before I respond. So it feels like people are working together even more now than they were when they were on stages together.
Yeah, and my first thought when I started to work online, even in scripted scenes, was that it's because of the delay. Because I'm giving you something and you still look for it. So I really try hard to see if it reached you.
Mm.
And
Mm.
it makes me attune to you even stronger.
That's interesting. I love that phrase of if it reached you, looking to see if it reached you. That is such a great philosophy, however you improvise, whether it's virtual or in person, is did this information reach you? And I think a lot of times we aren't focused on that, or being open enough for it to reach us.
Yeah, and for example, I had a very strange experience with improvisation class, actually not long form, where people started to work a lot with the space. And when you work with the space and you don't really see that you've reached your partner, there's a lot of noise, and you really try to look for this channel that goes to a little hole
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
You peep through it.
Now we talked earlier. You said you were enjoying doing it now online even more. Talk a little bit about that. Like what, we got into a little bit, but I want to hear your thoughts of why you're finding this more enjoyable, virtual.
Even small things that I start to understand now. For example, I took for granted in long form that I understand everything that happens. And now, because this is my second language, I really have to get all the details from every scene. So I start to work hard. And I used to get the tap out and the editing stuff is something that people do. And now for me, it's a language. We are not tagging out
Mm.
persons out of scenes. We are using this to make scenes. Many things that I missed before.
Yeah. And are you improvising, because we're improvising in English, are you translating it to your native tongue, translating a response back and then into English, or are you hearing and your responses, are they in English right now? Because I always find this fascinating.
I don't think that I translate. I'm not aware to it at all. I will use Hebrew if you will give me an exercise and I will have to go for inner dialogue. It's very hard for me, the inner dialogue in English, for example, to describe for myself, how do you feel? How do I feel about that? What should I do? How you can accept it? I can do it in English. So this is the only thing that I clearly do in Hebrew.
Gotcha.
But I really feel that I need an environment that is Hebrew free. And
Really?
actually I have it, because if I will, the better I'm in Hebrew, the worse I'm in English.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. I've spent some time in Denmark, and some of the Danes say they don't improvise in Danish because there's more words available in English, and they want more of that. more opportunity to use those words than using Danish. So, and then I know some friends who go, no, I have to very quickly translate it in my head to my native tongue, then translate my response, then translate that response to English. And I'm like, wow, that the processing power of somebody's brain to be able to do that is amazing.
And there are advantages to working with a different language because you appreciate the hardness of it. For example, there is no diction in Hebrew. Nobody ever, unless nobody understands you, they will work with you, but nobody works on your diction. When you talk in a second language, you're becoming aware to it and to accents and to. That's the first time ever in my life that I got to understand that there are accents, not just in movies.
Really?
In rural areas of UK, there are accents that I need to work on it. And that if I train my tongue, I can do it. And it's something that is doable somehow. And in Hebrew, I mean, you just lose the words because they pour out of your mouth. Nobody thinks about it.
That's interesting. Yeah, I remember I asked a friend, I was doing a show and a student had written a scene and wanted somebody with an Irish accent. And I asked my friend, can you read this with an Irish accent? And he goes, what county? And I was like, oh, right. It's not just like with a lot of languages, it boils down to like a specific dialect or region right there. And so mastering that is a whole nother skill. And you're right. Like it takes work. People want, people in the States, especially, I notice a lot of people do these kind of, they attempt at dialects, but they just don't put the work into it. So it comes off as very like stereotypical instead of like authentic. So it's one skill as improvisers. If you want to work on dialects, like, man, YouTube especially, there's a lot of tools to use, but you have to work at it. For some, it might come naturally, but I think for a lot of people, you got to work at that.
But is it different in United States compared to Europe? Because in Europe, there are people that didn't leave their village for hundreds of years, so they have different dialect with specific vocabulary than another village 10 kilometers away. So, but in US, is it more flexible and you are more movable?
I think it's very similar. I think like, let's take New York, for example, which has like, I think there's 5 boroughs or little, like within New York, there are 5 within the city itself, like 5 different boroughs or regions, and they definitely have their own specific dialect. And when people aren't from there and they're like, I do a New York accent, a lot of times it's like, it's kind of a different state, like it's an attempt at it, but there are very specific regional dialects for sure. Like where I'm from too, I'm from Chicago, which is the Midwest part of the US. And the Chicago, when I talk to friends, it comes out, it's very nasally and it's like, hey, Chicago, sausage. Like it comes out when you talk to people, like when I go back home or I speak to like relatives who have that accent, it definitely comes up. But I do think there are definite regional accents, even within certain, right there, I said accents, which is a Chicago, a very nasally A. So I do think there are, you can have people from a couple kilometers apart in a state that speak with completely different inflections for sure. And I think there are so many of that, like in the US, I think there are definite pockets of the country that speak with their own dialect. And then within that area, there are different dialects as well. Yeah.
So this is completely unimaginable for Israeli. Yeah. Because even there's no difference between South and North, just where your family came from, if they immigrated recently.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
So the differences are between Russian, French, Moroccan, and Ethiopian, but you don't go deeper than that.
Yeah, no, I think it definitely, like when you start breaking down the regions in the States, you can do a blanket, oh, that's a Southern American, like from southern part of the US has kind of one accent, but even within that, there are different states and areas that you have different accents from. And I think even with the dialect is like phrasing. I think that's another part of it too, is like what you call, Coca-Cola in Chicago is called pop. In New York, it's called soda. In like Atlanta, any of the flavors, whether it's like 7-Up or an orange, in Atlanta, they call everything Coke. So even if you want an orange, so it's even like little phrases or little sayings as well to the dialect. That is very interesting. So it definitely is, it's very interesting, but yeah, there are different regions there too.
Yeah, maybe we are just like a suburb of a small city compared to you.
Maybe that might be it. Even in some of the suburbs in like where I'm from in Chicago, even some of the suburbs are like, oh, your dialect's a little bit different. It's still like a Chicago dialect, but there's a little bit. And I think that comes from like suburbs that were farm towns for a long time that suddenly kind of became more urban versus the urban cities. So I think there are slight little, you can kind of notice, oh, you must be from, the Northwest side. I can get a little tinge of your accent.
So sometimes do you have a problem to understand a foreign accent that you...
No, I don't think it's not that thick of an accent where you don't understand it. The things you wouldn't understand are like a reference where somebody might say, they might call like, we would call it, let's say, for example, in where I grew up, you drink from a water fountain, but then like just north, they call it a bubbler. So it's the terminology. So it's not like the dialect, but it's more the phrasing that you would have a problem with. Or you might say, if it does become a dialect issue where you don't understand, it's because and I think this is true throughout the world, it's because they're speaking faster. So anytime people speak very fast with a dialect, it becomes a lot harder to understand. So you're like, all right, let's like in New Orleans, in the southern part of the US, there are like folks who have a Cajun background. So they speak with a drawl that kind of the words sometimes run together. So you're like, wait, slow down so I can get a sense of what you're talking, which I'm sure when I speak very quickly, it's the same thing. People will be like, wait, slow. And when I teach internationally, I find that I have to slow down a lot more and just be aware of the phrasing I say, because a phrase like, I remember in class once I said, oh, in a scene, don't throw your partner under the bus, which is a term we say to be like, don't make them look like a fool, like support them. But then people were like, what do you mean? We don't understand what that phrase, even people like from countries where English was the first language would have a hard time. And they're like, what does that mean? So I think slowing down and just being aware of like some of the phrases helps make language more effective.
So you don't have the experience of hearing somebody talking in English and you don't know what language is it.
Right. It's like,
because I worked with tapes of some specific UK accents and listen carefully and slow them down. And I mean, this was hours for me until I could get it.
Well, I'll be honest. I'll speak to somebody with a thick Scottish accent. I can't understand it. They're speaking English, but I remember I was in Edinburgh for a festival 20 years ago, and I was like, it was so, the accent was so thick, I would catch every third word or so, and it was all in English. So there are times, where but I think for the most part, it's pretty, for me, English, even if it's with a thick accent, for the most part, I can understand it.
It's right. Maybe there is a reason, maybe. The question is whether it's because you hear English all the time, or maybe because it's your first language and your brain is programmed to identify it in any accent. It might be that.
And it's also my only language, right? Like I come from, in America, they did not put a big emphasis on learning another language, where I think a lot of places in the world, English becomes almost a mandatory language to learn. And so I think as a kid, if I was trained to learn another language, I would understand dialects and language. I would have the skill to pick it up very easily. But because we don't, or I don't have that, it's a lot harder. So I can speak some words or phrases in other languages, but my brain hasn't been conditioned to learn language. And so I just don't have that. So whenever I hear something in English, I'm like, oh, okay, I can grab onto that.
And you don't know the possibility not to understand your language. Because
Right.
when I was taught English, there was only the possibility not to understand it.
Right.
I mean, it was a miracle.
Yeah.
Every word that I got, it was miraculous.
Right. And I don't even really speak English. I think I speak American, which is, again, it's a different, when you learn a language, a lot of times you're taught like proper sentence structure, but you're not taught inflection or how it's said or the common conversational English as much. And so you learn these words and these phrases, but they don't come into play as much as if like you are dropped off in a place and submerged in that language for a couple months. I think you would understand it and pick it up a lot quicker.
And that's what's happened for the last 3 months with me, because I'm always here, sometimes for 5 hours a day online in English.
And do you think that's accelerated your understanding of the language because you're just in it?
I didn't use it before, and yes, of course.
And you're doing like kind of online improv workouts right now too. Tell us about that.
It's gathering and meetings. So I try to disappear as I should, and I'll tell you what. And this goes for me also for scripted scenes and monologues. I believe that it's great to work with a coach. It's really great. It takes time and it takes money, and you are with larger groups, and sometimes it takes time until the coach find the way to get to you. But there is other way. And I really believe in exercises. Exercises with strict rules teach you to act, teach you to improvise. They teach you to play volleyball. They teach you everything.
Yeah.
So if you really take the rules and really swear by them, and that's what I do in my meetings. If you take if you take, for example, associations, if you run with a partner for 7 minutes of associations, one after the other, after 4 minutes, that's what I found. There is a click in my head. The click from this Tennessee Williams play when somebody is blank enough. Don't remember his name. A cat on a tin.
Cat on hot tin roof. Brick,
exactly. So there is a click, and the association stops being this path in your brain. It finds a shorter path, and then my body is relaxed, and I feel it, and my skin is warmer, and I continue to work, and everything shifts.
Yeah. And don't you feel like the first couple minutes of any exercise, students are, and we as performers are trying to like figure it out and navigate it. And then it's like, you need to have that like kind of trial and error of just doing it to understand like the logistics and how it works before you really get the lesson.
Exactly. So when you finish a class, which was really great class, just then you know how to do that, to start to train on the exercise, because you find the major error and what is specific for you and what combination of people who coming from different angles is hard and how to navigate between them. And then you know how you should work. You come to the next class, something completely new. So, but I need to train.
Yeah. You got to do, right? You got to do, and you got to fail, and you got to do it again.
Yeah, and for example, this noon, we worked on questions only. That hardly, you don't see it in jams. Everybody knows it, and you don't. And when you practice it, it's just in small competitions. So you get half a minute, 1 minute, 40 seconds. And I did a scene with a guy from the Philippines, which was great, George. And after the first scene, which was 4 minutes, we started the second. And then after 4 or 5 minutes, things are clicking and there is no other opportunity but to use questions.
Wow.
So you're not doing the exercises. It just happened.
Yeah.
You're just
wow
on the waves.
I love that metaphor, that analogy, I guess, of the waves thing, and you're just riding it.
And you know, I just think now, there are things that don't happen, and you try and they don't happen, and for a long time they don't happen. For example, many teachers come to class and they try to take time for exercise, and something in your brain don't let you do this. So you have a plan to do it for 40 minutes, and maybe you feel that people are bored or think that they might be bored, or you want to stop it before they get bored, and you never get to it.
Yeah.
And sometimes in exercises, when I want to start a boring scene, sometimes I don't let it happen. After half a minute, I want to go farther. So there is really something that you have to shut down the part that takes responsibility about time, for example.
I think aren't you talking about fear? A fear of a lot of things, a fear of being judged, or a fear of doing it wrong, or a fear of, not doing it right.
Yeah, the fear that if I will get the 2 minutes that I need from warm-up, for example, before I start a monologue, then I will have to be good at it.
Yeah.
Because I really took my time. And if I jump ahead, I have an excuse not to nail it.
So true, man.
Yeah, and it's incredible because sometimes it takes time to see the fear beneath things. And there may be a little sand of some part of sand of fear, and you have to go down there, pick it, look at it, let it melt, and then you can continue. Otherwise, it's a struggle.
Have you been like that, or do you think that attitude and that philosophy has come to you over time?
It arrived maybe very recently. Very recently.
Yeah, and I do think that's a silver lining in everything that's happening, is that I think the virtual improv has allowed us to have more, I feel like more of those opportunities. Also, you do a scene, if you're doing it, in a theater, you might have to wait a week or longer to do another scene on a stage. But here, you can do a scene immediately afterwards. Like, you have a whole world of people, and there's someone very close by to you, someone who you might not know, or you do know, who would hop on and do a scene with you. So you can kind of work through those moments of, I don't get to do it again, and you could do it again right away. And try it and fail, and try it and see what works, and then get to that realization like you have. I think we can get there quicker now because there's more opportunities to do this.
It's really great. It's like they made it for us. There's just one thing. Just today, I found the first thing that I miss. which is not something that you miss
Yeah.
because you long for, but you know that it happened in real life.
Yeah.
The time that it takes to arrive to a class. I mean, even with when you set it up on a phone and you used Waze and you go there really quickly.
Yeah.
It takes time. You wait in front of beneath the building. You
got
try
a
to call
park.
them. Yeah, might be a park. Or for example, when you leave a class, you have to pick your stuff,
Yes.
your bike chair.
Yes.
You have to check that you didn't forget anything and maybe move someone to get for your pen.
That's right.
And you have to cross all the class and
see you next week. Great class. See you. Okay, bye.
And you are like that. Don't notice me. Don't notice me.
I put my headphones
and you can't change it. I mean, you can't be in a second out of the class. It takes time.
Yeah.
This is nice about the world. For example, I've been I've seen some teacher, he talked about playing Mozart piece on pianos. And he said that when you play Mozart on piano, you want it to be sound like a song, like a human voice.
Yeah.
And the human voice has the property that you can go from low to high too quickly, but on piano you can. So if you run very fast, this is an instrument. But if it takes time to reach, then it sounds like a person singing.
Interesting. And interesting that we're talking about this also with our suggestion of harmony.
So I have several features that I want to suggest to Zoom.
Yes.
And one option is that when you log out, you can do it in a minute.
It takes longer.
Time.
You know what you should do is you have to log out, but when you're logging out, you have to type in, hey, great work. See you next week. Excuse me. Where's my mic? You have to log out your thoughts too.
And when you log in, you bump into one video, then it disappears. Then you see another page and you have to shake hands with everyone. Wow.
Yes. You have to recreate the in-person.
Because you know that sometimes I log in a class and there are, say, 12 people on the screen.
Yeah.
And someone look at his camera and I know that he's looking at me and I know what goes through his head. And sometimes I'm right. That's strange.
Where can people find you online? Like, what's the easiest way to get a hold of you and to follow you and work with you?
I'm just a one person in Facebook, like all the human creatures now. Ofer Shafir, and I post about this sweatshop meeting, which is maybe a bit early for you, although we have fun logging in at 7 a.m. But it's very, very suited for Europe and India and Australia.
Oh, that's great. And like, people have logged in early for stuff for us here in the States. So there's no reason we shouldn't also return the favor and get up and not just expect everyone to get up at our time.
You have to.
Well, I think Rosanne, our friend, we have a mutual friend, Rosanne, who suggested we connect. And I want to thank her too, because this has been a fucking blast, man. And I've loved as much working with you as talking with you afterwards. And I can't wait to do it again. I can't wait.
I enjoyed it a lot. Like first time that I sit in front of the camera and I really feel that I'm in a living room with a friend.
Oh.
You know, because many times I sit closer and my camera shows me huge on the screen, and it's weird. So first time that I on sofa in a way.
Well, it was great. I really appreciate it, and your energy is awesome. And it seemed like not just like hanging with a friend, it just seemed like, yeah, hanging out with a friend. So thank you.
Thank you.
I will talk to you soon.
See you.
See you, buddy.
Bye.
Bye.